Welcome to episode 41
40.
of Live and Jill and
40.
Frank.
You got to stop doing this.
It's 41.
Episode 40.
Last week was 40.
No.
Oh, well, if I'm wrong, everything says 41 tonight.
I can check. Oh, really?
But I'm pretty sure tonight's 41. Anyway,
It's actually 39, really, because we keep on doing this.
yeah, we skipped one, but we agreed to keep that one in the past. Okay, so anyway, my name's Jill Petrie. I'm a psychic medium.
And my name is Frank, and I'm a mystic coach.
And tonight we're going to talk about different mystical, spiritual, whatever comes to topic or whatever you want to talk about.
What Jill's
So,
trying to say is we didn't come prepared.
yeah,
We don't
let
have a
us know
topic
in the
today.
comments what you want to know. Anyway, but we also have something else exciting going on tonight because today is Frank's last day of being in his 40s. So
Yeah.
let's all send out some big happy birthday wishes towards him tomorrow.
Ooh.
I know it gets like boring after it gets to a certain age, huh? It's like I don't care.
I don't know. That was probably 5 years old for me.
I think that was like probably 25, 30 for me.
I literally, my birthday has not meant anything for me forever. Well, I mean, come on. I was
So it's
on the
safe to say you don't
streets.
have
Then I
any
was
plans.
like, no, not really. Quietness. Maybe walks in the woods.
Hmm.
I went today, anyways, but I still need to go more. Um, it was yeah, I had a crazy, weird week, so that was interesting.
Why? What's
You
going
know,
on?
well, here's the deal, people. Like, I mean, just to say, like, do what you preach or whatever, right? Like this week for me was just insane. I ended up in a whole shutdown, like a nervous shutdown. Like I just, my entire it's something that happens to me and whatever. But and I had to deal with a client at the same time, and it's a complex job. And when I get in that kind of, it's literally my nervous system that shuts down, and when that happens, well, my brain becomes foggy as all things. And so I go in and I can't even think. I had a friend come and help me for a couple of days. And he came in and he was like, okay, Frank, what do I do? And I was like, and he's like, okay, really, Frank, like, what do you need me to do? I'm here for you. Right. And I was like, here's what I need you to do: lead the job. And he was like, really?
Oh
I'm like,
man.
yes, that's what I need you to do. I need you to be the brains today. I said, I can tell you what we need to do in terms of, what I mean. But I was like, look, you take the driver's seat because that's the problem I'm having. And I told my client, well, that was something I had never had as a conversation with a client, to say to someone, because I had called him on the Friday and I had said, I have stomach issues, right? Because I didn't feel like saying, "Hey, buddy, I shut down when I'm in bed," and the world seems like a horrible place right now.
Well, I'm sure
Um,
when you have nervous problems, you do have stomach issues. So it's not like you were really lying.
well, still, and so when I went back, I just went like, "Look, here's the deal. I'm having like the issues I'm having are cognitive issues. They're not, like." It's not my tummy. But here's the deal. I cannot think. I'm going to come in your bathroom. I'm going to take a measure, and then I'm going to stare at that measure for a minute and be like, why did I need this? And like, it's the kind of thing that literally does happen every
Hmm.
time if I get in that space, like I'm literally so useless. But it was funny because like, he's a very quiet person, that client, and and so for me, like, it's
He's
hard to
hard to
read,
read, huh?
very hard to read. But I think he's realized that, and he's putting like extra effort at showing me like, no, we're good. Because at some point, like, there was a lot of, it's a complicated project. We had to like, there was a lot of complex stuff, expensive stuff, a lot of money to be justified, and to say, no, here's what you're paying for, right? And I think so that put a lot of stress on me, and then I was going through a lot of stress in my own personal life, and so it just built up, and that's what brought me there. But for me to go to that person and to say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna just stand here vulnerable and say, hey, you know what, I'm having cognitive issues. You don't want me working in your bathroom right now, right? And I said it was the next day, from the first day that I had brought the other guy with me. And he said, no, no, I get it, whatever. I said, that's why I brought the other guy. I said, he's my brain. And he says, okay. And that guy, like, he's my friend, right? He was like, Frank, man, he's like, it's like you had never done this in your life. And I was like, I know. Like, that's why I brought you. He's like, okay, I get it now. And so I brought him the next day after, and he helped me again and whatever. We got through like a fair bit, and then today I was still like, okay, no, this is rough, right? And so I said, okay, you know what, like, I need to take this day. Tomorrow's my birthday, so I'm, taking the birthday. So I told him, look, I'm taking the next 2 days, whatever, and Monday I'll show up. And usually after I go through this, what ends up happening, it's like I do a reset. It's like the system bogs down all of a sudden, and it just kind of, it's too much to handle, and so it needs to shut down, process everything, and then restart. And so that's what happened. So I said, look, on Monday I'll be back, I'll be on fire. I'll be like, banging your bathroom in like zero time. um and I was like, okay, like, this guy's gonna kill me. Like, there's no way, right? And he was so understanding and sent me a birthday present and what. And I was just like, okay, that's, you know, um,
Wasn't expecting that.
no, I wasn't expecting it. Like, that was cool. But well, and you know what? That's usually what it is, right? Like, life takes care of itself, but you gotta let it. But it was a different experience because I'm learning a lot of things about myself, and I'm not going to get into details about that, but it was a different experience because it was um oh, I'm going to have to switch cameras very soon. My battery was not charged tonight, and I don't have a plug yet. Give me a second. Let me come back with my webcam. uh, Webcam. Okay, how
Yeah, it usually
horrible is
goes out
this?
like 5 minutes before we after we end for some reason.
Well, because it's usually about that length, right? It's because my battery lasts
It's
that
almost
long.
perfect.
But it wasn't charged today, like, because I don't have, look, like I said, work was an issue, everything was an issue, everything was just crazy. So it's been yeah. So so here we are, and this is what we have.
So
um
here we are.
so yeah, anyway, so that was my situation, but all this is to say, one of the things I took out of that was to say, okay, well, here's what, this is what I am, and I can't make that, I can't push against that, right? And this is where I wanted to go with this, is that as it happened and I shut down and I knew I might get in trouble, with my client, I might, there was a lot of things I was dealing with, and I needed to kind of push it all aside and say, I'm not dealing with nothing, nobody, whatever. And I had to accept that's what my body is demanding of me. So if I give it that, then I'll be okay in a few days. If I don't give it that, then no, I'm just going to burn myself. And then I would go and do a burnout or something, right? Like, it would just become worse. But by allowing it, then you kind of just, suffer through it, whatever. And, I mean, I was reading, buying a weighted blanket for my personal case.
You
Supposedly they
know,
help.
it's interesting you mentioned that. Um, because I've been noticing like when you like when like I've been having the baby, well when you wrap the baby in something really tight, she sleeps so much better.
It's because
So
it's
it's
just like
almost
in
like
the
a
womb.
weighted blanket, yeah.
It's just like in the womb. When I used to swaddle my kids, I used to swaddle them so tight, but they loved it. Like, they were so quiet. They were so, like, I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but like, yeah, when it comes to babies, like, I'm a baby whisperer. Like, I'll take any baby and calm them down in like seconds. Well, plus I learned the trick, like if anybody has a baby, you have a hard time with your baby, you can't stop them crying, look up the 5 S's. It's a method for stopping babies from crying. The gist of it, let me try to remember, is you swaddle them. That's the first S. Super tight. You turn them on their tummy. I don't remember the word for that, but there's one. But on your arm, you put your finger in their mouth. That's for S for suck. Uh, and then, okay, this one you got to be careful. You shake, but you don't shake the baby because it's a baby and you don't want to shake babies, but you shake the baby like in a small, small shake. And you go super loud. You go shh. And what you're emulating is the way it would be in the womb, because that's the sound it makes. That's why vacuum people use vacuum cleaners or washers and dryers and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
the
This
sound is exactly the same as in the womb.
the baby swing has a setting for singing
Hmm.
feature, and one of the features does like static, and then the next button does like an actual nursery rhyme type song.
Yeah, that sound, it really calms them. They really love that. Um, yeah, so but you do that, and literally, like 10 seconds, baby stops crying. And literally, the guy, if you watch the videos of the doc, I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but the doctor that invented that, uh, you watch it, he goes on, like, Oprah and whatever, these kinds of shows, right? And he's like showing them with a crying baby, and like, baby stops, and he's like, okay, so that's how you do it. And it's like, yeah, works every time. Like, anytime I've taken a baby like that, people are like, oh, seriously? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, here's how you do it. There you go. You're set for life now. And it makes a huge difference to your life too, because any parent will tell you, yeah, they're bundles of joy, but wow, they cry a lot.
So here's the picture of the day.
Picture of the day.
I
Little
love this
aliens.
picture.
You love those aliens.
I love those
They're
aliens.
from a movie. What movie is that?
I'm not sure.
I think they're from a movie, anyways.
I don't know, but I love those aliens. They just look so realistic.
Realistic to
Realistic.
to what the aliens you've seen look like. Tell us.
That
Tell us.
makes so much sense, huh?
I know, it's like, well, you know what they discovered on Mars? There's an area where they say that there would have been a lake there.
Is it
Uh,
area 51 or 61 or something like that?
I don't. No, no, no. I'm talking about on Mars, not on Earth.
Oh,
On Mars, we found traces that there would have been a lake at some point.
really?
So yeah, which is an indication of life, uh, like previous life, obviously.
We were
But
in
here's what
Zora.
I was immediately. I was like, yeah, all right, here it comes. That's where we're from. We just destroy planets and just move on. That's what we do.
No, I think it's, what is it? Women are from Mars, men are from
Men are from
Venus.
Venus. No, men are from Mars. Women are from Venus.
Yeah. Um, but the, yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say.
All right, so let's try to. Do you still have the wheel, or should we do Chat
I
GPT? Should
don't have
we
the wheel on this device.
Chat GPT? Let me see.
It will be Chat GPT.
Well, I might have to relog in, and I don't know if I remember my. Okay, I can do this. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, this.
Let's learn about more about Buddhism tonight.
About Buddhism, eh? Okay. I know about Buddhism, but I don't always know what's from Buddhism or not exactly from it. But like, because mine is a. Imagine for a moment the way I approach life, the way I approach my spirituality. Imagine for a moment a mix between Jesus and the Buddha. I take from both, and a lot of the Old Testament and the Kabbalah and whatever. But so my Buddhism is kind of intertwined with religion as well, so I don't know which part is which, but yes, we can definitely talk about the.
Like I don't know a whole lot about actually, other than it has to do with maybe like meditation and maybe yoga.
Well, the first, okay, you know what? The first most important thing about Buddhism, because people even ask, like they'll say, is Buddhism a religion? And up until not that long ago, I would have probably said no. Uh, but officially, it is a religion. Now, the difference with that religion versus other religions is that the very first thing they tell you in that religion is whatever we say, take whatever you want and leave whatever you want. Like, who gives a crap? It's for you. Oh, I think your voice might have disappeared.
I know that was on purpose.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you were talking to me. All right, that's fine. Um, I have revealed you. So, oh god, this is gonna be a long show. Where was I? I
So
got lost.
for those of you that may not know, let me just disclose that I am in between working and the live. So I'm just kind of like, in case I go out, that'll be why.
Jill may be called to,
Yeah. If my name gets
interact
called,
with
I have
people.
to turn off my sound.
Just, I don't know, raise your hand so I see your little screen and I go, oh, okay, she's busy. Because I thought it went on mute, like not on purpose, kind of deal. So
But we are talking about Buddhism. So
yes,
let's see. I
okay.
assume that most people, especially people that are developing spiritually, practice some sort of Buddhism, even though they don't completely follow the religion.
Well, how about we start with the basics of Buddhism,
Okay.
the Buddha, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll start with a small generic short version of who's the Buddha, what did he do, whatever. The Buddha was a prince. Um, he was watching the population from outside of his castle, and he was always like, why are they all suffering? Like, they're everybody's suffering. What's the meaning of this? Like, how could I end this? Like, why does that have to happen? Why does it always seem that somebody has to suffer somewhere? And at some point, he decided, okay, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to find the answer to that question. Now, he left on a quest to find that answer. And he traveled for many years, and there's many stories during his travels and whatever. But what is important is that he returned, and having what he found out, what he discovered is that there is no end to suffering. There is no you don't stop suffering. You stop suffering through suffering. You just kind of you acknowledge the suffering and you go, okay, that like I suffer because I'm human. That's why I suffer. Everybody suffers. That's part of the package. Every single human, if you go and you sit with them and you have a moment and you're able to, get through to them and you get to that depth, every human right now suffers. That's part of the human condition. Now, we all try to get around that. We all try to go like, how am I going to not suffer? We try to entertain ourselves. We try to, like, TikTok, whatever, you name it. We have a million ways that don't work. But what he found is that there is a way that works. And that way he started teaching people. And a big, big, big part of that mentality is through non-attachment. Non-attachment is very central. Um, it doesn't mean not to love things. It means not to attach yourself to things. It's learning that things, everything has an end. including ourselves, right? Our entire life, like you look around you, look at everything you see, look at everything, it comes to an end at some point. So, whenever we interact with people, whenever we enter relationships, whenever we learn a new, get a new job, get a new, whatever happens, right? Like, whatever it is, it will have an end. So, from the fact that it has a beginning, also comes the fact that it will have an end. That's the cycle. That's how life works. Knowing this, now don't attach yourself to the thing. Don't attach yourself to the event. Don't attach yourself to the and don't attach yourself to outcomes. Right? When you go, okay, I'm gonna set out to do a podcast, right? Like uh I'm gonna become the most popular podcast in the world, and da 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 da, right? Whatever it is, like I mean, you set out to do something, but even that, even the attachment to the outcome might be something completely different. But if you're too attached to the outcome you started with, you won't let the proper outcome take place, because you'll be attached to a certain outcome, but that outcome may not be the one that the universe has in store for you, right? But if you're too attached to it, you're going to mess that up, because you'll grab on to that. If you don't,
And that's where the pain and suffering comes in, from being too attached to something when it's time
exactly.
to release it.
That's exactly it. If you're able to just let it flow through, like I said, right? My it was pretty it was a wicked weekend. But that's what it was, right? It was like, okay, wait up. So now I'm in an emotional and a nervous, space where my body is all messed up, my mind is messed up. So it was like, okay, well, today I stop. That's what I do today. That's, I mean, whatever. I don't have a choice. I don't have. So, and rather than resist it, I said, okay, how do I now communicate that to my client? Because he'll need to know. But aside from that, I'm not making excuses. I'm not saying, hey, you know what? Let me come and kill myself to, no, because it's no use doing that. I would not help. And I mean, a week later, I'd still be in that same boat. I'd be going in and messing up. And so knowing, like, okay, and again, I had an attachment to the schedule. I had an attachment to, delivering results. I had to let go of all those attachments, because those were all bogging me down right now. Any of those attachments I had was part of why I was going through that nervous breakdown. And so I had to one by one sort of like in my case, it's because I do delayed processing. Uh
Hmm.
and so there's a possibility for, and just so the conversation makes any kind of sense, like there's a possibility of sorts that I may have autism. So I'm playing with a lot of things in my mind these days. But that's what I thought anyways, that it looked like, was that kind of shutdown. So I mean, I just had to accept it. Yeah, you just have to go, you know what? That's what life is delivering me today. And you know what? Friday, I said, hey, I'm not coming to work. I went in the woods, and I said, the woods is where I go to calm my nerves. The woods is where I go. It's making a lot of sense. If I got that diagnosis for why I go so much in the woods. They say that they tend to want to be very, very alone very often. Uh, so that would be me. I very much end up in the woods alone all the time. But anyway, so that was so what else about Buddhism? Um, well, okay, so how do we gain non-attachment? How do we? Because to begin with, there's two things that we're going to be excessively attached to, um, and those two things, they're the hardest to get detached from, and those are our thoughts and our emotions, because we tend to think those are us, right? When we think like, oh, it's hard because I've detached a fair bit from that now, but like we tend to think in terms of that our thoughts are us. Like if we think like I'm going to be a star, like I don't we don't detach ourselves from that thought. Where when you've managed to detach yourself, you look at those thoughts and you analyze them and you go, wait a minute, what am I thinking here? Like I'm either like delusional about something, or I'm denying myself something, or I'm like there's so many things, like I'm shoving something in my shadows. I'm But you need to gain that awareness of your thoughts and your emotions. Like you need to not be attached to them. And that's hard to do because our ego wants to identify with our thoughts and our emotions. So when we feel something, we really feel it, right? Like we do. It's everywhere. But we need to detach from that and go, that's something I'm feeling. It's not me. My decisions don't have to be based on what I'm experiencing in that realm. Do you see what I mean? It when I
It is hard to disconnect
Well, it's that's
when
why
it's
meditation.
and a lot of times, that's why people deal with grief, like, from disconnecting. Some people have trouble with grief from not just losing a person, but it could be losing a job, losing a
Mhm.
home, losing a vehicle, having to move to a new location, and as a child having to try a new school.
Well, that's the whole thing about Buddhism, though, is that as you practice Buddhism, obviously, it's not because you walk in a Buddhist temple and you sit cross-legged one day that you've reached enlightenment. Um, so you start somewhere, but the thing is, through those practices, through meditation daily, learning to breathe, learning different postures that are good for your body, learning, like, there's a whole lot of different yogas that are involved, a whole lot of different practices that, again, like they say, right, take whichever ones work for you, leave whichever ones don't work. Like it's up to you, but here's what we have. And But mostly I'd say meditation is the number one thing that will do it, because it just stops everything. It takes time, though. It takes, like, well, I had made it my goal, and I think everybody should start with that as maybe a goal, but it can take years. It took me years to reach that goal. And the goal was very simple. I'm going to meditate for 6 months in a row every day. Now, that took approximately 10 years to reach. I don't know if I'm slow. I don't know if I'm fast. I don't care. But it took me that long to accomplish that goal. But I did accomplish it. And I don't know, somewhere along the way, I don't know if it's because I did that 6 months. I don't know if it happened a little bit before or some after. But at some point, that was the gift that it gave me, was to be able to look at myself from the outside. And that's a huge gift, to be able to truly look at yourself and say, hey, what's going on there? And then you start doing shadow work, and then it gets really interesting. um, Now that's another topic we can get on. uh, but yeah, it's you look, there's only one way that you this spiritual path works. You have to look inside yourself. It's not something you seek. Nobody's gonna come and give you the answer that you need. They may give you the way through which you can find the answer that you need, but the answer you need is inside you. You already have it. I know that sounds absolutely, completely off the wall, corny, but that's the way it is. We have all the answers. Now, when you're able to separate from your thoughts, from your emotions, you start being able to not only see yourself, but see your relationship to the world. And that's when you start easily being able to detach yourself, right? Because the things that attach you are your thoughts and your emotions. It's because you have a certain emotional, well, again, that's the term is right, an emotional attachment to something or to someone. Now, if you look at your emotions from the outside, when that emotional attachment happens, and it will happen, it's not that that your emotions are not going to happen. You're going to have emotions, they're going to come up, but you'll be able to go, okay, wait a minute, this is what's happening. And so you can make a decision that follows that, doesn't follow it. You can go any direction you want because now your thoughts and your emotions don't lead you. The other thing is when it comes to your thoughts, because meditation is nice, but I always tell people, like, I don't know, read psychology. If you don't trust like therapists and whatever, read your own books on psychology, but get introduced to the language of psychology, to the way they describe things, whatever, because it's very useful. And when you take that and you put it with a spiritual practice and you kind of, create a picture of yourself for you to function with, well, you gain a lot of power. You become able to, like, whenever you go out into the world, you will be able to introduce yourself as, I am Frank, this is what I am, this is what I, not what I do. Like, you'll say it, obviously it's part of the conversation, but that's not so much what's going to be important. What people will remember is what you were, right? Because the more you know yourself, the more you'll be able to present yourself in a just way to people. And they will go, this person seemed to be self assured. This person seemed to know who they were. They had self confidence in what they were telling me, they liked and disliked. They weren't folding anytime we disagreed on something. They weren't becoming like attacking either, right? You got to have balance. But when you're able to be mindful of yourself, then at that point you start being able to do real spiritual work, like really really insane stuff. Because then you start being able, what I always tell people is next step or same time, it doesn't matter. It's just whenever, I think that's an important thing to say about when people talk about levels of consciousness or different spiritual levels or whatever. Those are not things that exist like as if you were climbing a ladder. They're not you go to level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. We have a physical representation that works that way, but that's not what it is. Those levels can happen at the same time. They can happen, it's not that clear cut. But what's going to happen is you can start doing energy work. You can start doing learning about how to manipulate the world. I mean, people talk about the secret and the law of attraction and that stuff, right? Now, that concept is very real. However, it's being presented in a very, very washed, washed down manner. If you involve yourself, because people will think like, oh, okay, so if I sit cross-legged and think that I'm going to be rich, I'm going to become rich. Okay, 12 days later, you're still sitting in your bedroom cross-legged, going like, why am I not rich? If you want the law of attraction to work, you're going to say, okay, so tonight I'm going to make a spell so that I get rich. And tomorrow I'm going to go and I'm going to, seek clients for my business because, yeah, that could make me rich. I'm going to, try to develop a new thing. I'm going to, whatever project you may have, you're going to start taking action in your life. If you don't have a project, you're going to go, what could I do that could make me rich? And from there, you're going to move forward. Now, what you're doing is you're taking energy. That energy may be physical, it may be etheric, it may be astral, it may be, there's many levels on which energy exists. And when you're moving energy on the physical, that cannot be underestimated. Energy on the physical is a very, very strong energy. It is a dense energy, but it has very, very narrow limitations. Energy on other levels has a much more broad application, and it's easier to manipulate and send and whatnot. But all those energies exist at the same time. So if you put all of your focus, all of your emotions, all of your thoughts, and all of your actions into getting to a certain goal, well, here's what: you're going to get to that goal. You may have failures along the way, but you'll be on your way to getting to that goal. And if you don't give up, you'll get there. Like, that's a given. Yeah. So, are you back, Jill?
And it helps to with also with creating what you want in your life, like with I'm losing the word. What is the word?
I don't know. Tag you
Um
it.
damn. Manifestation.
Yes. Well, it's because people. It's like everything else. People want to stop it at I'm gonna think something and it's gonna happen, because they don't want to take action. They just want to have things happen, and it's like, no, no, no crystal is going to make it happen. No sigil is going to make it happen. No, no one thing is going to make anything happen, because all of those things need you to charge them in order to happen. And if everything else about you is not going in the same direction as the spell you're doing, guess what? It's not going to work, because you're going the
Hmm.
opposite direction, right? It's like if you're saying, okay, we're going to get in the car, we're going to head east, but we want to go to California. Well, odds are you're not going to get to California because you're going east. But you're going, oh, yeah, but we're going to get to California. Well, no, you're not. It doesn't matter what your intention. If you're going east, you're not going to California. So if I want to become, the next biggest shoe manufacturer, maybe I need to leave my job as, at Amazon, right? I didn't say that. I'm sorry, Google. I'm sorry, Amazon, Google, guys, like whatever. No, but
I heard nothing.
yeah, exactly. But like, I mean, you gotta, at some point you gotta jump off. You gotta, and that's the other thing they never tell you, and that is the most important thing, right? Science tells us that nothing can be gained and nothing can be lost. So here's the deal: if you want something new to come in your life, you need to make room. So you need to let go of something. Usually there's a complementary thing that it makes a lot of sense to let go in order for the new thing to come. There's going to be a
Hmm.
belief maybe that we have. There's going to be, but something is to be let go. And when we know that, it creates what I don't know if I'm the only person that calls it that, but I like to call it that. It creates a vacuum effect. So people always focus on trying to bring in the new and force out the old kind of deal. Where I'm like, no, 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 get the old out. There's now empty space. You can't have empty space. That's what science says, anyways. So I believe that, right? I go with science on that. I go, okay, so if we can't have empty space, if I empty the space, something's going to have to come in. If on top of it, I'm focusing my energy on what it is I'd like to come into my life, now it's going to get filled with the right stuff, especially if I'm moving physically in that, if I'm saying I want to be rich, and I'm going to see companies and seeking clients for my next big thing or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I'm looking for locations for my store. I'm, I don't know, looking for junkies for my heroin. I don't know. Whatever it is you're into. But you need to move. You need to actually take action in every aspect of your life, emotionally, physically, mentally, and if you can, spiritually and energetically. And so if you have some sort of rituals you can do, or energy work or whatnot, I believe all those things work. So, Jill, anything you'd like to talk about? How did we get here from Buddhism?
I don't
I'll
know.
have to go watch that. I do this.
I have no
I
idea.
do that.
But I just believe in the certain things about each religion, just like you do. Like Buddhism has a few qualities.
They all
I guess
have
the Catholic
something.
have qualities.
Yeah, they all have
Not too many.
something. Well, that's the thing, right? I like a lot of what Buddhism brings, right? Now, I also pray. I don't even know, what I mean? People go, "Well, why do you pray? You don't even believe in a god that's like, that gray bearded dude sitting on a throne." Or what my definition of God is more like an energy or whatever. But I pray. Why do I pray? The
For
same
you.
No, I pray for the same reason that if I throw a rock up in the air, it's going to fall down. I pray cuz it works. That's all. I pray because it does allow me to be closer to that thing I call God, that's energy, that's whatever the hell I think it is. It does manage to get me closer to it and to make my life have new things happen in it. Because that's the way I work. I'm a coach, right? So my way of looking, I'm a coach and I believe in science, but I'm in the realm of the crazy, right? So I'm like, okay, all right, let's have fun here. But I use science, I use the methods of science. That being said, a lot of it becomes subjective. So because of that, science will throw it out. Now, I don't throw it out because I allow subjective. I say, okay, if I experience it, then for my own conclusions, I'll say, okay, that's what I believe it is because I have my own proof. If somebody wants proof, they have to try it. And again, it becomes subjective. And then science says, yeah, but can we repeat it in a lab with everybody? Blah, 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 blah. Can we measure it, count it, whatever? No, you can't. But if you try it, you get results. So I don't know. But that's the way I qualify and quantify things on my spiritual path, is by using all those things. So by creating that vacuum, then you're just bringing in what you want, and that's really strong. And if it's not happening for some reason, if it's not going the way you want, if everything seems against it, there's also a good chance that that's not what you're supposed to be doing in life. And so the universe will let you know that. And if you want to know that answer, now you have to start trying to find a way to reach your higher self. There's different methods. I don't know that every religion has one. They may, some of them very hidden deep in the religion, but yes, there's you know, um, I chose some methods derived from the Golden Dawn, but not the cult, the order from the late 19th century. But yeah, it there's many different paths that lead there.
You frozen. Oh, there you moved. Okay.
No, I'm not frozen. I'm frozen.
It's no, it's freezing. Like I see the blur in the air when your hand moves.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, that's my crappy camera.
Okay. So please like and share the live. We ask that you if you have anything you want to talk about, you let us know in the chat. We also review the chats after the live's over. So we will get your comments. A lot of times we see the comments after the live too. So we're not getting them all at. It depends on how you come in. Let's put it that way. Um, but yeah, we love interacting with you. We love to know your questions and your comments. Want to know
Absolutely.
what you want to know about, what topics you would like us to cover in future shows. And yeah, right.
Well, I think we don't have the all the usual people because I think people are not used to us being every Thursday yet.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
we're every Thursday now.
yeah. So guys, yeah, know that like now it's always the same night, so that makes it easy. It's always the Thursday, same time, same place, the internet.
Yeah, sometimes we'll get on a little after 7, a little past 7 if we're running a little bit late, but it's always in the neighborhood of 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 Eastern.
Here's something to blow your mind. So time, right? Um, right now, like of all the things that are coming apart in the world, nobody's factoring that time is being affected right now. You're not even wondering why? Because of the internet. Because right now, a bunch of people are watching what I'm saying, not when I'm saying it. Most of you are watching this show, not when I'm saying this.
Yeah,
Possibly a
because
week later. I may be dead.
oh we yeah.
I mean,
N-
you know what I
oh
mean?
gosh, don't say that. You
Okay,
still
but
got to get 50.
oh, seriously. But no, but I mean, but you know what I mean? Like it's so the conversation right now defies time. The converse every human is having like we're having this massive conversation, right? We're all in the town space and we're all having a huge conversation, political, psychological, people talking about like mental health, people talking about so many topics. All of it is defying time because something I say today might help somebody 6 months from now. Okay, give me a second, you guys, because I've got something I'm supposed to read here and I cannot. Um, give me a sec. My lovely is trying to tell me something. Use chat, Jill. Sorry, she's in a training at the same time as we're filming this, and so every once in a while she has to attend to the training, which she obviously is paying much attention to. Um, but yes, and so she's trying to show me on her screen a little message, but I can't read it. Use the chat, Jill. So, anyways, uh, now that got me completely. Oh, there you go. So she's in a breakout room at work, so in training. So we'll have to do without Jill for now. Um, okay. Well, all right. Let me try to get my thoughts together here, guys. So anyway, yeah. Does anybody have anybody that's here? Do you have questions about any of what we've talked about, like either the Buddhism aspect, the non-attachment? Well, okay. Here's another aspect of Buddhism that's super important, and the whole. It's not only in Buddhism; it's in everything, right? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the Christian religion, every religion has that sewn in with or without awareness of it, but it's the law of duality. The fact that we always everything has dual polarity. Everything comes with its opposite from the moment, like even if right now I came up with an idea, I said, what if we if it was feasible, what if we painted the sky pink? That would fix our problems. And immediately it would almost follow that anybody who heard us, like if there was enough of a population sample, it would almost immediately divide half and half, for and against, because that's just how things are. Because the universe will always, we throw a rock up in the air, it falls on the ground, that's gravity, we know it, that's that. Well, that's also a law of the universe. Now, it's one that we can't measure, we can't quantify, we don't have the same scientific ability to take tools and say, whoa, what is that? But it is there. and we can use those. There's many of those, uh, and they're important. But that one, the fact that the universe is always looking to balance things, is important. So even if I'm trying to be, let's say, and I'm going to push this to an extreme that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. So, trigger warning, I guess. Um, but even if you're trying to be like a goody two shoe, here's what: because the universe needs balance, and unless you're able to perceive that, just like every other human on the planet, you have a dark side, that dark side needs an expression in someone else. And so someone else will express a dark side, but repress all the good in them. Because that happens too. I mean, like my entire life, my spiritual nature, which is at the very core of who I am, had been repressed because I was told immediately when I was a kid, like, what the heck is wrong with you, kid? And so I went, oh crap, okay, no, none of that. But yeah, I had to bring that out. And so it's very important. It brings back, again, I mentioned earlier in the show, and it brings it back to shadow work. Like, gotta you gotta learn to know that you have two sides. And right now, what's happening in the world, like, people are shocked. We're finding all kinds of people that, are different in so many weird ways. Some that we find acceptable, some that we're shocked by, some that we're and it doesn't matter whether we're shocked. It doesn't matter whether we think it should or should not be. It is. And that's a reality. That's a reality we have to face. Humanity has to go, hey, look, these things exist. They are in us. We all, everything is, we talked earlier about autism and the spectrum. Everything is on a spectrum. Everything is in a shade of gray between two opposites, between two polarities, right? So, and that's a good example. Somebody on the spectrum, on the autistic spectrum, could be like super highly functional. They're close to a neurotypical person, or they can be like a fair bit like far off, whatever. They're very, very hard to even function in society. But it's a spectrum, right? Now, everything is a spectrum between two polarities. Look at the left and the right fighting. And that one, it's even more. I don't know if somebody will challenge it. Please challenge it. If somebody will, has more to say about it or whatever. But something I've been thinking about is the whole thing that's going on right now between the left and the right, like particularly in America. Um, and for me, I'm like, okay, it seems to me like it's an obvious problem that we have, and it has nothing to do with anything that is mentioned. What it has to do with is with we have a whole bunch of like ultra intellectual people that have blocked out any possibility of emotion in their life, and a whole bunch of highly emotional people that have completely blocked out any kind of rational in their life, any kind of logical explanations. And both are 100% correct in expressing half of what they are, because we all are both in some varying degree, right? It makes me really, really freaked out when I see that people are able to divide themselves so strongly over, it's like you either take package A and you need to take the entire package, or you take package B and you need to take the entire package. And it's like, wow, reality falls in neither one of those packages whatsoever. reality falls in the middle and it happens in real time. And as we've expressed before, even in broken time now, it happens all over the place. Now, here's the deal: both of our halves are being exposed right now. The good we do, it's being seen. The bad we do, it's being seen. Look at what's going on with governments. Everything is becoming exposed. They're going like, it's like the emperor has no clothes. They're going like, oh my God, everybody's in a panic because, yeah, everybody can see everything. We've created the internet, and I don't think we're putting that thing in a box anytime soon. We might have some people that try, but some other people will wake it back up. And we have AI coming. That's going to be another thing, and we need to get ready for that one. Now, that's another thing I have theories about. Like, I'm opinionated about everything, guys. So, settle down. Just get ready, get your coffee. Um, but yeah, you guys, we separate everything. So that law of polarity is very, very central to everything we do. But we're always in the gray. So it's important for us to acknowledge that. And it's important for us to learn to center ourselves. So that brings us back full circle to what I was saying earlier about shadow work. And doing shadow work is looking at the parts of yourself that you have repressed. Now, like I said, because it asks for balance, some people have repressed like really horrific things about themselves, and other people have repressed really, really good things about themselves. So you find both, and we're all expressing both. Just so you know, I do some really, really weird stuff. Jill will tell you a million times. Jill knows all about it. I can be a really weird person. I can sometimes be mean. I can sometimes like I'm not, you know, um, and I live with that, right? But I learn from it because I'm aware of it. I wasn't always aware of it. And when I wasn't aware that I had anger, when I wasn't aware that I had, uh, there's so many things. I mean, when I was not aware of how I could be with words, I can be very, very cutting with words. When I wasn't aware of like all the deep, dark thoughts that I can have. And without having shame, I was taught as a kid to have shame for almost everything. And so learning to have all my inner thoughts and not feel shame about them was a very, very daunting task. And it was not easy to do. And, I started off with toxic shame and, yeah, feel none now. Uh, but yes, you need to be able to look at yourself with honesty. But that's again where Buddhism is really strong, in that through meditation, through learning to look at yourself without judgment, and learning to look at yourself simply from an observation standpoint, not going like this is good, this is bad. Again, remember duality. Duality does not exist. Right? Now here's where I'm an omnist. I believe that every religion and every faith, every whatever belief has a bit of the conversation that they can bring in. Um, and so unfortunately I lost where I was going with this. But well, yeah, because they all mention this polarity that I speak of, right? It's all about good and evil. Everything always gets split right down the middle. But what you have to notice is that the bad, the evil, is always in the story somewhere a seed from the good. It always comes like in the case of Lucifer, right? He's the fallen angel. So he was part of the kingdom. There's many different fables, different stories where this happens, and there's a reason for that. As far as I personally believe, like a lot of it is not so much code, but a different language that was used at that time and that was understood in a way that we have lost. But what they were talking about were basically psychological concepts. Um, they were personifying everything that we are. And through that, they were learning to manipulate it and to recognize it. And so we have all these like stories, and those are all representations of parts of ourselves, right? Uh, and so they all, but the one of the themes that keeps on coming back is this duality. And if you listen to some of the stories, it is that moment when we discover polarity, humans, that everything starts being different, right? Because until we're aware, if you look at any animal, if you look at a tree, if you look at anything else on earth, it serves a purpose. It knows its purpose. It doesn't question. You don't see a deer sitting in the woods going like, what is my purpose in life? Right? Like that doesn't happen. The deer goes, my purpose is to live until I become food, or die of old age, which is unlikely. Um, unless you live in certain areas like near my house where we have like almost an infestation of deer. But typically, that's their life. But they don't question that. They don't. Squirrels run after nuts, and they run after food all summer, and then in the winter they figure it like they don't question it. Humans at some point were given the gift to recognize things as being good or evil. And the reason we did this was I believe, was for survival. So, okay, our brain tends to want to automate processes. It wants to make everything like as easy as possible. It is lazy. So, when we were in survival, back when we were fighting saber-toothed tigers and discovering fire and, whatever, all that stuff we had, we didn't even have language, maybe, or maybe we started having language, but we had very little of it. Uh, like, yeah, okay, I'm taking it a little far, but we, the way we developed religion, uh, my belief is that yes, we invented religion, but my belief is also that we invented religion, not, it's not an invention, it's a rendering. We looked at ourselves at whatever time and said, what are we? Like, how do we, what is our environment like? What is, if anybody's not like, okay, here's a really, really incredible book. It was written like 100 and whatever years ago, I think. But it's one of the best books written on the subject. The Golden Bough, uh, Bough, the Golden Bow, the Golden Bow, I think Bow, um, by Fraser. I don't remember his first name. That book is incredible. It's an anthropological view of like how religion came to be. It is the most complete book ever written on the subject. It's a couple of thousand pages, I think, if I can recall. It's like it's this thick. It's a massive, massive read. It is dry, but the knowledge in there about comparative religion and the creation of religion, starting from tribes to and when we looked at the sun and we said, oh my god, like the sun, that is the giver of life, right? And to this day, I mean, like, here's what I have, what I call a personal relation to my higher power source, whatever. um but a big part of it, in my case, rests in going in the woods. And when the sun is there, I go and I position myself in the sun, and I feel the heat of the sun and the energy from the sun. And it becomes a representation of what it is that I aspire to, whatever, I don't call it what you want, insert name here. um, and that is a very, very, very effective representation once you can appreciate it. Now, here's something I noticed, and I have an explanation for it, but I'm not going to get into it because it's with the Kabbalah and it would get complicated. But the most people, it would seem, when they enter the realm of spirituality, like once they start walking their path, seem to at first get an attraction for the moon and for the night and for, like all the things that are related to visualization, to and those are like on the tree of life. Like if you study Kabbalah, whatever I have, um it goes in order, yes, and it follows moon and then sun. And in my own personal life, it's kind of funny because it followed that in a fair way. When I was on the streets, when I left my house when I was 17, uh, I would almost every night I would look at the moon and I would talk to it. Like I had a relationship with the moon in a really, really weird way. It was something that I developed, not because I'm completely crazy, but because I'm a little bit crazy. No, but because it works. Here's what, like I am crazy, but I allow crazy in my life only because it works. I explain. That relationship with the moon, that exteriorizing things I went through, right? Having somebody to talk to, but somebody that is both outside of me and within me. But at the time that I had this connection to the moon, I was going through, let's call it the early study phase of my spirituality. I was discovering things and I was learning through all kinds of weird experiences and it's funny because it's called the sphere of illusion on the tree of life. It can be called that. Now, this is where images are born. This is where visualizations come from. And then, as I evolved, years later, I find myself having a similar relationship with the sun. And it kind of just, I don't know, for some reason it followed a certain, and that would be like that is what the tree of life shows as a path. And so the expression of God through the, sorry about the word, source, God, whatever, through the sun, I believe is important. And I believe like almost every religion, almost every belief has a mention of a sun god, of a, like the sun is in there every time, right? Of course it is, because as I said, we created the gods based on what we were experiencing. And well, the closest we could experience at that point from God was that big sphere of warm light that could come to us that we couldn't even look at, right? Now, it's funny because they say, "Oh, you can't look at God. Should you go blind?" Right? Well, yeah, okay, you can't look at the sun. Should you go blind? Like that just makes sense, right? But we look at scriptures and things like that, and we go, "Oh, you can't look at God because you'll go blind." See, oh, that's a big, yeah, no, it's true. You can't look at the sun and you'll go blind. But that's the closest expression we have in the physical world of God. And that's that energy sort of shows us in a physical way what it is that we're seeking, right? Because if you do look at the sun, and don't look at the sun too much, and don't even look at the sun, I never said look at the sun, but if you do look at the sun, uh, what you'll find out is that you'll see a ball of white bright, like it's even hard to call it something, right? Because it's so different than anything else you ever look at. Not even looking at a light bulb is the same. It doesn't have that same depth. Like it's infinite. So, as a representation of source, it is, one of the best ones. Uh, Now, guys, okay, it's been 1 hour and 11 minutes and 11 seconds. So I think that's a really good time to call it quits for me. Like I said early in the show, I had a bit of a rough week, so I think you know I'm talkative, but I do reach my point to where at some point it goes silence. There it is. All right. So listen, too bad Jill couldn't be with us. She's still she had to lower her volume, she said, because she's still in that training there. So they're still taking her time. They're taking her away from us. That's okay. We'll try to fix that. And well, once again, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Joining, you know, as always, we always appreciate it. Please chat, leave comments, share, like the video. Anytime you like videos, it always helps with the algorithms, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, go see our YouTube channels. It'll really help us on YouTube. They are Inspired Spirits by Jill, and they are Boundless Mind. That is mine. And the same exists also on Facebook, as well as our Live with Jill and Frank page, obviously. So please follow us, share. Hopefully you got something out of this episode. Uh, I'm very grateful for your presence, and we will see you next week. Much love, and enjoy your week. And that's usually when Jill, the skilled one, gives us a video. I will try and see what happens.